Tibor?
Mitra. And we have Bob here behind the screen. And because he had a little bit of a maintenance break, he's not ready to talk yet, so we're going to be having it a little bit differently today. We're going to see him from blast from the past, when he was a bit younger. Not now. And yeah. Might be a little bit straighter. Should be right.
Don't play the wrong video.
No.
We still talk about non-duality. We haven't changed much. We say start from the fact that you're already that. Everybody's been here before and heard the spiel many times. And so don't take that statement as it is. Yeah, that's all right, but and look for something else, something a bit better. But if you take notice of what they're pointing to, and they say non-duality and describe it as one without a second, because even the idea of one implies there could be other than one, to cancel out any idea at all that there's anything other than that. They say one without a second. And the Buddhists tell you the same thing. They say it's not conceptual, ever fresh, self-shining presence awareness, just this, nothing else. So you see, it's nothing new. Been around forever. And all of those traditions don't leave it at that. Trying to describe it or talk about it, and you start describing it, trying to talk about it, you split it up. They divide it up and start conceptualizing it as this, that, or something else, or some other. Add to the non-dual one without a second all sorts of concepts, ideas, and images. And a seeming separation is set up. And the sad part is it's believed in. But when they use the term omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, total presence, total power, total intelligence, implying, again, not three things, but three aspects of the one, there could be nothing outside of that totality. So if you've got the idea you're going to get to it, or get something, you've got the idea or concept, there is God and me, and I will become one with it if I do certain things. So again, the way they're pointed out, they're pointing out clearly and quite obviously there can be absolutely no duality in non-duality. And yet we are seeing dualism all around us. What appears to be dualism all around us? The manifestation out there in nature, the world, and within yourself, constantly appearing dualistically. Couldn't be day without night. Couldn't be silence without sound, or movement without stillness. There could be no manifestation if it wasn't appearing dualistically. And what is it appearing to? Isn't it appearing to the separate me, the believed in separate me, or I, which is not realised or grasped? That's an appearance also. So an appearance seemingly appears to an appearance. So what needs to be done? And who can do it? We say investigate. We say start from the fact you are already that. And there is no other. And if we say investigate from that point, who are we telling to investigate? There is no other. The investigation must go on quite naturally and effortlessly. Just like the sun shines, the earth moves around the sun. Seasons coming and going, tides coming out, all in the appearance. It's appearing to happen. needs to be recognised in recognising itself and recognising that it is all appearance. It's nothing other than that essence appearing and expressing as everything. And that doesn't have to be cognised or known, because it's always been cognised and known. You look up back over your life and see how many times, how many views of it or experiences of it, or remembering or knowing you've had of that feeling or sensation of onlyness. Only. Look at that word. Add an E onto it, it's only. So it's been cognised many times, and it seemingly gets obscured again. So hearing this or reading some book that's quite on the ball with it, it's recognised again, yes, I've had the taste of this. It resonates or registers in the recognition of itself. And in that recognition or resonation, is there any need to do anything else? The chatter comes up, the thinking comes up, the chatter comes up in the mind again, and seemingly obscures it. But is it obscured? Is it ever obscured? If you go back to that point, that it's the only, there's only oneness. It appears, vibrates and expresses as everything. So even is the obscuration, semi-obscuration, is that anything other than that? Also. Is the good thought, the bad thought, anything other than that? Is the pleasure, is the pain, is the happy or sadness, anything other than that? And recognising that. Doesn't the word good, bad, pleasant, painful, like we said, lose its sting? If the essence of the word, you realise the word couldn't take place without that essence, without that pure intelligence energy. Just like the reflection couldn't take place in the mirror without the mirror. There's enough in reflections in the mirror to totally obscure it. You never see the mirror. It's always totally obscured by reflections. And yet, having investigated and seen that that's all that's in the mirror is reflections, you also go a little bit further and realise there couldn't be a reflection without the mirror. So you know that the reflections are being mirrored, always and ever. So it's the same with this stuff. What we point to, and along the lines we point, have a look, test it by having a look and seeing for yourself. Don't take to get the idea that you are looking. Take it from the fact of what we would say, you're already that. Whether you know it or whether you don't know it at this stage, but start from that fact. And then you realise also it's only that can be investigating or looking. There's no you that needs to investigate or look. People get hooked up on that, a lot of people. Believing, I've got to get to it. And trying to get to non-duality from duality is an impossibility. Can never ever happen. Because as we say, duality is appearance only. It's got no substance or any independent nature. And it's constantly transient, constantly changing, always changing the appearance. But the essence, which we say for want of a better term, is no thing. We say nothing and people see it's a vacuum or a wood. If you say no thing, hasn't got any shape, hasn't got any form, hasn't got any centre, no circumference. Is that no thing or emptiness? Is that transient? Go back and look over your life. And though you mightn't have acknowledged it, has there ever been a time or a place that you were outside of space, or space was absent? Things that need to be reminded and looked at. And you realise you can't ever get away from it, any time, any place or anywhere. It's a believed in self-centre that's the cause of the problem. And we say, have a look at that and see that what we believe in there, the self-centre, is a fiction. There is no entity there with any substance or any independent nature. So the energy of belief going into it made it seem substantial, solid and very real. And that's where the concepts or images or senses of fear, the anger, the self-pity, the resentment, all these things appear. Because of that belief. Because they're always related to that conceptual reference point we've come to believe in. And that is the cause of all the seeming problem. Because there's a seeming point that we can relate to. So that certainly needs to be investigated. See, this thing that I call I or me, and the mental image, the concepts are added to it, and form this mental picture. When investigated, you realise that the mental picture, the image, the thought can't see, it can't hear, it can't be aware. This thing that we've, energy of belief has seemingly given power to, that's ruined or made the seeming life pattern seem very hard, hasn't got any power at all. It's a fiction. That's what the seeming bondage has been. Bondage to a fiction. So to be free of the bondage, it needs to be looked at and seen clearly. And if any doubts come up about it, look at it again, and again, and again. Twist, turn, and look at it from all directions, all points, and see if you can find anything with any substance there. And doing that, not finding anything, wouldn't a conviction arise that I am that like they say? I've always been that, ever been that. And could you really take on the erroneous belief anymore and believe in it? That's basically what it's about. Let's hear your version. Questions, doubts, arguments, or whatever. What is the self-centre? Isn't it me or I? What is me or I? Isn't it a thought, a word we've acquired or learned? But it's not just the bare thought. We've added to that I thought to make it seemingly substantial and solid, other thoughts like, I'm Bob, I'm Australian, I'm this, I'm that and the other. I've had these bad events happen to me, recalled from memory and added onto that I thought. And we've got a mental picture, we built a mental picture or image of what we believe ourselves to be, all conceptual and all a dead image, we must add, because it's always based on past events and experiences. And everything becomes relative to that image. It's always related to that. That's the reference point. We relate it to a mental image. I don't like this, how do I know? Well, I've had that experience before, and it wasn't liked, it was a bad experience, so I like this because it's good, you know. Constantly related to a dead image. So, problems are problems of relationship, relative to. And relationship is always me and the other. It's dualism. Any relationship is dualism. So while we're looking in that direction, we never get to non-duality. So, can you destroy, when you look at it closely, something that doesn't exist? Can you sublimate it or subdue it? And who or what would try and do it in the recognition that it doesn't exist? You create yourself another image that's going to get rid of the old image. That's how it goes on. If you've got nothing to relate to, what's happened to the pseudo-subject? Subject and object is always dualism. And I see, I believe it's that me that's seeing, that conceptual image. I've created a subject, a seer, that is seeing this or that, that's seeing that I'm seeing are concepts also. A chair, a table, you, me, or something else. We've added labels to that image or pattern that you are. But the pattern is pure energy. But we put a label or a word on it, and that's the seeming object. So we've got dualism, subject-object. But what's taking place in? Well, it's taking place in the seeing. Is seeing dualistic? Is hearing dualistic? Tasting, touching, smelling, are they dualistic? Only when they're seemingly divided into a seer, a taster, a toucher, a smeller, subject and object, they're divided by concepts, they're seemingly dualistically. But they can't be a seer, a subject, that's not seeing. There's no seeing there. You can't say there's a seer here without seeing. And there can't be the seen, the object, without the seeing. Can there be anything seen if there's no seeing? Can there be a seer without seeing? Look along those lines, the hearing thing, and you recognise that the two ends of the one stick really. Two concepts we put on the one seeing, the one hearing, the one tasting, and seemingly divided conceptually, and suffer accordingly because of that division. It's not necessary. It's the important thing. It's not necessary to go into all this psychology. Can happen, it has happened. But it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't happen here today. And it did for many, many years. In the recognition of it, the old habits dropped away. Not necessarily immediately, but you can't, once you see something as false, you really can't believe in it again. If the energy of belief's not going into it, make it seemingly stronger. What it loses its intensity. Nothing can live without energy. It's all energy, and nothing can live without energy. So the thoughts, the concepts, and everything, they're just patterns of energy. And they can't be unless they're being reinforced by the energy of belief. And the belief can only come up because it's not questioned. So we need to look at all our beliefs and realise that even the word belief, it's not the actual. Nobody believes that they are. There's a difference. Each one knows that they are. And before they are, that knowingness is there, before it's divided into I am. Nobody can negate that knowingness. That is not a belief, so look at things in that light. And test it out, see what's beliefs and what's not. And beliefs lose their hold. Yeah, if you believe there's a practicer that's practicing, but if a natural, discipline or what you'd call practice comes up of its own accord, no, it's not coming from the me. If it comes up, I've got to do this or I've got to do that. The very trying is the problem. It comes up naturally and spontaneously. And it's the same everybody's seeing right now. You see all these apparent things in this room. But can you separate anything in this room away from the seeing? So we're saying we're seeing this and seeing that, but actually it's just the seeing. Because none of it takes place out the sign. The seeing is not dividing it. is not separating it. Seeing seemingly full of patterns, shapes and form, but they're not separate or apart from the seeing. So instead of discriminating and divided into I see this or I see that, recognise it all as the seeing. The seeming things in a room, but they're not discriminated and separated from the seeing, they're just part of the seeing. And that'll probably go on. But in knowing the truth about it, is it going to be a bother or a concern to anyone? Well, isn't there a seeing now without putting any hit on it? Anybody not seeing right now? To discriminate it, or try and discriminate it, and particularise it, you'll say, I see this, or I see that. And the recognition of resistance, that's what that teaching is, must be from the point of non-resistance, doesn't it? Isn't that what's happening? You recognise it, you just go back to the seeing.
Well, I would not normally recognise it like that, that's true.
Well, you don't have to put those words on it, but you say that, you know, say there's tension there. It must be recognised, even if you're not thinking it, I'm saying. And if it wasn't being recognised from its opposite, how could you say it was tension? If you're totally with it, you've got nothing to compare it to. Not divided into something, just as it is. And you are that. Is it a problem then? Only when it's seemingly divided. It's a problem. And the recognition of it, resistance from the point, must be from the point of no resistance. And what's going to happen to the resistance if it's not being resisted? So if these things are still going to go on, just the same as it's still going to be day and night, it's still going to be winter and summer. The tide's going to come in, the tide's going to go out. So the thinking is you're always going to be thinking in the opposites. If they're not divided up into a subject and object, into a seer or a thinker or a doer, it's just the play of the patterning, the shape and the form. Are they going to be a problem? If they're taken delivery of by me that doesn't want this, it wants the other, it's going to be conflict. It can all be broken down into one essence, one energy. Pattern, shapes and form. Emptiness is forming patterns, vibrating and moving. So the emptiness is forming the patterns, and the patterns are taking place in that emptiness. And he turns it around the other way and says, the form cannot be any other than the emptiness, only appearing to be. Nothing's ever happened in reality. What initiates the movement of the earth as it spins around the sun? So we take it from this point of view and think it's so amazing, but see the overall the way the system functioning and all that. No? There's nobody out there pulling the strings. Just all happens quite naturally by itself. And even that body you call you is that same intelligence energy that brought it into existence, starting with a microscopic sperm and ovum. Grew your forms, your pattern, and then you think you're going to run the show. We'll go out and find the centre of the space and then measure it from there. Then you might find the answer. that knowing that's going on that can't be negated there or here is an activity because it's happening. It's a happening in the immediacy of this moment. And that's just a movement of energy, a vibration of energy. Now, does that vibration have any beginning? When you talk about now, was it, can you say it's starting? Pinpoint the start of that moment? Can you pinpoint the end of it? It's just like a throb or a pulsation, isn't it? Just as it's beginning, it's ending. As it's ending, it's beginning. And because of that natural activity, this seeming world pattern, shapes and forms, including you, me and everything else, we're no different from that. Birthless, deathless, timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless. Make something out of that. We still talk about non-duality, we haven't changed much. And we say, start from the fact that you're already that, everybody's been here before and heard the spiel many times. And so don't take that statement as it is. Yeah, that's all right, but
that was from the beginning. I just wanted that you are already that repeated, and there we go. And we're gonna now pull the screen. And I hope it was enjoyable. Yeah. It's a great school. Yeah, it was beautiful and light. Did you enjoy it?
Better not say I don't.
Better not say you don't.
When was that, Kat? What was that?
I'm not quite sure. I think it was about 10, 12 years ago. I remember him looking like that when I first started coming to the meetings, so it wouldn't be that far. 10, 12 years, I'd say.
It's not on YouTube, is it on YouTube?
No, it's not. No. No, I wanted to get an unpublished one. Yes, so this is the part where we encourage anyone and everyone to bring up whatever resonated, whatever was, whatever stood out for you, whatever you heard strongly in that particular spiel, or if nothing from that particular spiel, if there is anything else that you would like to bring on and bring it back home, any doubts, any questions, or if there is anything that you do understand and you go really well with it and you feel that saying it out loud will help you and others. Anyone would like to start? We just do the regular discussion. That's what we do every week.
For me, it was very powerful when Bob said in that spiel, there's this believed-in entity that has all these problems, and then we create another believed-in entity to solve those problems. And so it's like this endless cycle of trying to almost fight your shadow, like claw with something that's not there, and it's always going to just be a waste of energy. And I think this process is about, and that's when that sort of feeling of liberation or coming back home, because now all of a sudden that when that realization occurs, that waste of energy is just not there, and you could just function as you are. It doesn't make you any special or more important than anyone, but it's just simply not trying to fight a phantom anymore. And yeah, so that kind of really resonated with me. Yeah.
Beautiful. It is a beautiful highlight.
I like the bit about relationship, that you're not in relation to anyone. So some of the patterns in here that are there, like the phantoms of the like authority figures that scare me or whatever they are, that are part of the package of what causes stasis in the system. Yeah, some of them just sort of dropped away. Like in particular, one of my clients' mums, like just sort of dropped off the radar, and there's just more of a freedom there. So I'm interested to see if the thing I'm writing for her will suddenly come out and much more easily or a different way.
Maybe just to build off that, I think like what you were speaking about, like I think you said stasis sort of in the body, like there are these blockages, I think, as well, and I think when we like Bob was also saying, like that is still it though. So these trying to sometimes solve these blockages in the system, sometimes from my experience, only creates much more problems when it comes from this sense of self. But when you're allowing them to just resolve themselves naturally, it just takes care of itself. And then if it doesn't, there's still not as much suffering because you recognize it as that also.
Yeah, that was actually, I really liked this film. There was a lot of points that I thought were much more simple and back to the real core of it. And that was another point, was that he was saying these processes of letting go will arise, but so long as you don't think you're doing that letting go, that's a completely different kind of attitude than not even noticing, but a letting go occurs. And I think quite often those people go, oh no, but any kind of letting go has to be you doing it and you believing you're doing it, so therefore it's not valid, I think that's like a misconception that comes up here, the sort of place,
Absolutely.
In the non-dual area.
Yeah, beautiful. I have a comment here from people who are with us, and there is quite a few acknowledgements. The Wizard of Oz behind the screen, says John David, when you were sitting behind the screen. And Giotti says, it was great watching the recording. And Tati says, another great spiel, Bob. Tanya says, great spiel, Bob, good to see you. And Giotti says, wanted to revisit an old point. What exactly is this voice in the head? You want to say something about it? What's the voice in the head?
Just concepts arising, isn't it? What's the concepts? Words or energy.
Yeah.
Comes up as words, thoughts, ideas, and images. But they're all vibrating. And we put labels and discriminate them with the word. Don't do it.
Stop it. Yeah, that's what it is. The voice in the head. I love how you say it is just an arising. When you think of a sounds outside your head, when you think of a sound of a passing traffic, you think of a sound of a bird singing. It's the spontaneous arising. It's a spontaneous movement of energy. That's what it is. The voice in the head is no different. Although you could say it's a part of the conditioning of the projector, because you will have different thoughts than the tennis player or whatever performer. They will have thoughts applicable to the functioning of the machine. And they are just the same sort of a conditioning or the programming, the software of the machine, as digestion or sweating. When it's hot, the body will sweat. Some will sooner, some will later. When it's appropriate, the thoughts will arise. Because the machine is slightly dysregulated by constant attention going to the thoughts, thoughts arise even if they are not required. But that's just a beautiful challenge that you may have to actually recognize the dysregulation and enjoy it. And Jyoti says, thank you. And Adil says, who is there to investigate? Me is just a belief. Great point, absolutely. Investigation spontaneously arises, just like the traffic noise outside, just like a sweat on the skin. If that investigation arises, there is no one who does it. There may be a thought, oh, this is me, I do it to get rid of myself. No, this is just a thought. Investigation arises just like the content of seeing arises, just like the content of hearing. Everything spontaneously arises. But it is a great question, because yes, people stumble upon this one. Like Tony was saying, you know, oh, if there is letting go, there have to be me that does the letting go. If there is an investigation, there has to be me that does the investigation. No, there doesn't have to be any me. Letting go happens, investigation happens. Just like burping happens, sweating happens. Anything that happens just happens. Did you want to say something?
No, just listen.
That's it? Not yet. Okay, anyone?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the video. Thanks for putting it up, because I think it just covered every angle of the mind. You could say that it checkmated the mind, all concepts from every angle. And as has already been said, any approach always comes from that conceptual idea of a me, of the mind, and can never solve the problem. And just how Bob so clearly and freshly explained all those aspects in the video was wonderful. I felt very energetic, and just see what actually is going on. Just the simple one of seeing. We just make it into a subject and object, when in actual fact everything is just being seen, felt, etc. The actuality of what's going on. Just fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you.
Why not? I was just thinking, can you divide space? You can't divide space. So if space isn't divided, then it's one. And now everything that appears is appearing out of that oneness. So if it all appears out of that oneness, then it also is that oneness as well. And this energy and the form of thought is, just that one energy that's appearing as something separate, but in reality it's actually just this one energy as well that Bob talks about, the one intelligence energy that is everything.
Yeah, we seem to place so much emphasis on the thinking part of our lives, don't we? So much emphasis on the concepts that arise. What are we doing there?
We want to see
And
you
yet-
when we hear you.
And yet, even when we investigate how much time and energy we put into thinking, say, about another person, it isn't very much at all, is it? And yet, if I think about my relationship with Dean or Tibor or anyone, even though you are a perfect thing, if you like, perfect image, perfect whatever, what really is going on is so much little thinking, so incredibly little thinking about it. You get that? But the real thing is that's left over is that great essence which cannot be defined. So just all the thinking really is when you really take a good look at it, all my thinking is all the thinking that goes on about me and everything, the world, whatever. It's so small, so little, and yet it seems to be so great because of what? Because of the fundamental greatness of oneness that is behind it, sitting behind the whole thing. I don't know whether that makes sense. I hope it does. Makes sense to me here.
We have a comment here from online, from Catherine. She says, Jane says, you have to investigate to find out
that there is no investigator. That's a good point. Gilbert?
Yeah. Nisargadatta introduced this neti, not this, not this. And it's a beautiful way of removing belief in concepts and whatever arises in the mind, recognizing that I'm not this, whatever it is. And when all of the concepts are negated and the belief in things are negated, there's just life as it is right now. And it's spontaneous. The word spontaneous means uncaused. So life doesn't have a cause. And life is intelligence. And that intelligence has no cause. It's fresh and new every moment. And it expresses itself through language. But language is secondary. And we get caught with words and stories. But that intelligence is totally available. So the question to ask oneself is, what am I without a word? And what can arise out of that? Without a word, what am I? You can't say, but you cannot negate that life or that intelligence or the energy that's expressing itself. And that's one without a second. So it's available to everyone, absolutely everyone, every sentient being is that. And nothing separates anything from anything else because it's one. And it's not a story, you know, we have to use words to point at it, but it's beyond words, it's beyond mind. Prior to the display, the magnificent display of awareness or consciousness. And as Bob says, leave it as it is. This is one of the most beautiful pointers. Leave it as it is. And I think Bob is a living expression of that. You know, no matter what arises, don't buy into the story of me. The me is a fiction, and everything associated with me is a fiction. It's so simple. And it's not a matter of, you know, this one's clearer than that one, and, you know, teachers and gurus and devotees and all of the paraphernalia. It's just simple. You know, you didn't choose to be born. You didn't choose your parents. You know, I've met people who say, yeah, I was there in the room when they were making love and I decided to enter into the thing. It's like, come on. The imagination is a wonderful thing. But who can say whether it's true or not? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Never mind.
There was something that you said that made me think of the fact that life expresses itself in so many different ways. So there's, I mean, it's all energy, and there's sensation, there's temperature, there's texture, there's a whole gamut of experience. And it's only when the word or the name comes in that creates the separation. So the moment I distinguish, or the moment the thought arises that I am feeling this, or that is that, or this is that, or whatever, then that is the realm of, I guess, duality. And I think that's really interesting, because I think that's where I got stuck along the way is the recognition and of the truth of what's being shared, but then the intensity of experience in the body, so sensation, even the heart rate going up. That in and of itself is not a problem until the mind comes in and says, "Oh, I shouldn't be like this." And the moment that then is also investigated and seen, then it becomes this uncontrived, I guess, coming back to just that simple leave it as it is, and that recognition that it doesn't belong to anyone. And just that the experience of there not being anyone here as an entity, as a separate idea, as an idea of being separate, then even listening to the spiel, actually there's just empty space. And there's no one that can actually try and grasp or understand. It's almost like the words are just, there's just energy moving through. Yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, I can maybe add something. I've been around this thing for a while, and that's just an expression, whatever it means. But what was recognised was this habit of referring everything to the image of self, me. This is the trap, so to speak, and it doesn't need to be that way, but it's a habit of referring everything to me. But when you see that the me is a fiction, that habit dies by itself. So the energy is no longer feeding this image of me, and there's great relief in that. Yeah. But it's none of my business what somebody else is doing with their stories. They go on about their traumatic, things are stored in the body or whatever. It's I can't go there, but it's none of my business. Everyone has to make their own journey.
And trauma is just a word given for a certain actual experience that doesn't want to be experienced. Because if you look at animals in nature, they experience what we would call trauma, but there's then trauma resolution happens, and it's become a whole field, right, of healing, I suppose, through shaking, and they do what they do. And actually, trauma resolution in the human mammal happens exactly the same way. So if there is a confrontation or something's unresolved in the body, there might be shaking, there might be crying. There's nothing wrong with that. It's only when the mind comes in and says, I have trauma, that it creates an identity around it, and it becomes a thing. So, yeah.
So we have a comment from Tazi. Be what you are, not what you think you are. Yeah, disregard the thinking. That's the...
No choice.
Yeah.
To say also that there is no competition here. There's no need to do anything, is there? At all, really. You just let it all go. Just all we need to do, if there is a doing at all, is recognise that thoughts arise and thoughts fall. That's all. Thoughts come, thoughts go. And who's the one, therefore, that is standing behind all of that? who's looking, the more we facilitate that in our lives, the less that these thoughts will have an impact or some kind of mesmerisation. That's all.
So there's a body. There is a human body that actually is a pattern of energy and carries so-called resistance. And without the body, there wouldn't be a capacity to experience life. So the thought is, I find it so easy to hide behind the concepts. But actually, when the concepts drop away, the whole experience of life includes the body, this human body and every other body. And that includes every sensation, everything that we have habitually with the mind try to control or move away from is happening right here. And that's where I think I believe that's where the stabilization of this understanding happens, in the wholeness of the experience, which includes our body. And I, for the longest time, resisted that. I resisted the experience that was the sensations, the feelings, the emotion that was was moving in the body. The mind had created an identity of non-separation that didn't include the body, because its idea of what it thought enlightenment or realization was essentially came from self-preservation of not wanting to feel what was happening here in the body, because it didn't like it. So when that is realized, that even this and every single movement of energy, every sensation, everything is included, including the pain, including everything. And the suffering only then can come. The psychological suffering arises when the mind comes and says, I don't want to feel this. I don't want this. This isn't included. And that's where the separation comes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Ah, yeah, yum. I love when you share and include, because this is really what differs the non-duality from the popular spiritual movements, in which you are about to experience blue light above your head, or you're gonna see the angels behind you, or the ancestors, or all the other imaginary creatures or past lives or anything. That is everything but not the groundedness right in this moment as it appears. If it appears with a toothache, it appears with a toothache. Or if it appears with a past memory of abuse, that's what it is. That's the content of this moment. And if you are unable to actually ground yourself enough to appreciate that this moment is a temporary, it's an experience, but it is right here, right now, it will never ever be here again. This is the time to live through it fully, whatever it contains. That's the freedom. Freedom from exchanging unborn Buddha mind for a thought. Like Lindsay beautifully said, yes, the whole trauma and the whole strategies that we learned since early childhood to avoid suffering and avoid pain, and go and engage with imagination, engage with what is not happening. Imagine, and even that, imagine you are not the body. Well, in fact, the body is a costume necessary for the duality to be fully experienced. It is imagined in a way, because, the moment you stop thinking, there is just a bundle of sensations. And if you don't have the thought that it is a body, it is just a bundle of sensations. But without that bundle of sensations, without that costume, which Bob sometimes says in a spiel, it's like a car or like a house or like a shirt, the body. Without that bundle of sensations translating the light into that ray of colors, there is no experiencing. So the groundedness and inclusion of that bundle of sensations with the label body is the first step. Then realization that you are not exclusively your body. You are the totality. The body arises within what you are. You are the life, you are the presence of awareness, and you can experience it right now. Without the thought, there is a consciousness, there is a presence of consciousness there. Within that, the body arises. Within that, the thought, the resistance, the trauma, all of it arises. The whole world arises within the presence that you are. If there is no presence, there is no world. Like we had an interesting discussion yesterday. A couple of people came to have the individual, semi-individual, because it was the two of us versus two of them, mentoring, where the confusion arose, actually not really even a confusion, but a potential confusion arose from the idea that there is a baseline of stillness, and on that baseline of stillness, experiences arise. And this is the very, very common description. Bob likes to call it basic screen, or the stillness. You know, when you say the noise arises on the stillness, if not for that field, the noise couldn't arise. So she says, I can only experience directly if the sadness arises, that's the sadness. I can't see or experience the baseline of peace on which the sadness arises. When there is a sadness, there is sadness, and that's it. And I say, well, that's in the same way. How do you experience space? You presume the existence of space because there is a content. But space neither exists nor it doesn't. And in that beautiful spiel today, Bob was saying, can you ever see the mirror? You can't. Mirror is completely covered with reflections. That's all you ever see. So can you experience the baseline as a mind? Mind straight away conceptualizes that there is something that is opposite to sadness, but there is nothing to be conceptualized about that baseline stillness or basic screen or cognizing emptiness. It can't be conceptualized and grasped by the mind. It can't be experienced as an object, ever. You can experience sadness, that's the vibration coming and going. But you can't experience the stillness, it doesn't vibrate. You can't even say that it exists. We say there is a basic screen, but is it really? That's a presumption. We can't say that it is, and we can't say that it isn't. And the moment the mind's eyes starting to focus on that and try to grasp it and objectify it and make it tangible, well, we are deep in the forest, completely lost. This is not something to think about it. Direct experience speaks for itself. If there is only sadness, well, that's what you experience. Why do you want Bob or I to tell you something else? Rely on your own direct experience. If someone else tells you that, no, there's something else underlying, forget about it. That's not your experience. Someone may be lying to you, or imagining, or expressing the very same thing in a different words. Because from the overview perspective, we've been going for the last 9 years, we've been going through ups and downs in health, in various areas of life. And underlying those challenges, there is a stillness that can only be expressed through the bigger picture overview. But it can't be grasped, it can't be painted, it can't be, it's not tangible. But it is an expression as good as any other. Tony, did you want to say something?
Example of that?
Yeah, just grab the mic.
Yeah, there was some unpacking of a pattern that took place here, and then it was like it sort of just seemed to disappear. Like I think it was hustles for side money. If I did crosswords, I might get $40, which probably won't help, but you know. And then there was some unpacking going on. Some process took place of unpacking some shit, and then it was like, whoa, that was just gone, like not there. And the puzzle got put away, and it was just like, I guess, a reflection of memories of the discomforts surrounding what the pattern when it was there. So the angst about, you know, I better get on and side hustle for that money, and then there's all this other stuff's not getting done, which is core money, and you know, etc. And it was just, in the reflection of those annoyances, which was the content, there was just like the opposite of that was a little bit of joy could arise from it not being there. And there's a bit of a casting for, oh, is it there, is it there? And then the little memories come up of the content of what used to be there. And then it's like, and then the satisfaction, light joy, that, yeah, it's bloody nice that's not there. But what the not there anymore-ness is, I guess, creates some opening for some light joy. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. And there's nothing right. That's it. There just is. That's our experience, really. Nothing wrong, nothing right.
Yeah, the message is really unspoken. You know, I was gonna tell a story about when I met Bob for the first time, and I was caught up in this, limited view of myself, and energetically it felt very limited and stressed over small things and annoyed about small things and angry about things that don't matter, and all that sort of energy is going on, and then when I met Bob, I just noticed that he had something that, well, I thought that I didn't have. And when I sat down with him and looking across at him, the energy, that he has, I guess, started to sort of almost feel like he was bringing me into his world, and he was talking about non-duality, and all of a sudden I started to hear what he was saying, and that limited energy, through the belief I had in myself, started to weaken, and all of a sudden this feeling of complete freedom in my energy, I guess could be one way of saying it, just came over, and we were just there, me and Bob, just as one, completely free, and there was no thinking happening at all, and then I left, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, and it stuck with me for a little bit, and then slowly that limited self came back, and a little bit of belief in it, but not quite the same as Bob always says, and really all that's happening is you're just coming back to yourself, and yourself is unlimited with freedom, energy, and it's all here right now. And why would you leave from there, I guess? Just the habit of leaving, but eventually you never leave. Yeah. That's right. And who would be leaving? That's right.
I have a couple of comments from the online community, and Bradley says, recycled garbage is also called trauma. And Soul says, paradoxically, the non-dual realization allows full engagement in the seeming duality of life. Ups and downs, coming and going, pleasure and pain. Yeah, and that's the true freedom. the true freedom from the desire and aversion, from constantly wanting what is not, and not wanting what is, liking and disliking, just being one with life. If life presents this, well, that's what's preferred, and I'm one with life. So, yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Sol. And that's that for online comments. Anyone else? Thank you. Wow. You remember that little saying, as a rule, a man is fool? What was that?
You know it.
Do you know it, Kat?
As a rule, a man is full, or the mind is full. When it's hot, it wants it cool. When it's cool, it wants it hot, always wanting what is not, never wanting what is God. As a rule, a man is full. I learned it from Bob. I learned everything from Bob. And Bob also has in a spiel that beautiful explanation that Lindsay you portray. You know, like what was it? What you were saying? You know, I like it, I don't like it. That thing.
I don't remember.
You remember, darling? Oh yeah, it was something like that. The thought arises or the feeling arises, and it gets named from the past. Oh, that's anger or that's sadness. I had it before. I don't like it. And then it causes resistance. And resistance is suffering. Resistance is not being on the same page with life. Resistance is telling life or God creator or whatever you want to call it that it is wrong and I know better. And who is that I that knows better? That resistance, when recognized, is just another arising phenomena. But when believed, it's a hell. It's a hell, wanting what is not and not wanting what is. It's a hell. Because it creates the separation, the entity who holds that opinion dearly, who is right about it. I shouldn't be sick or I shouldn't be poor. That's what it is. And without the label, it isn't. You're never sick. If you don't have a thought labeling the sickness, it's just a bundle of experiences. It's just a bundle of sensations happening. So there is a freedom from believing the mind. And in that freedom, mind is still being utilized. And it is a fantastic instrument. It's a beautiful machinery that helps the body survive and navigate the complexity of life. So it is something to be really, really appreciated for how it functions. But you don't have to be slave to the mind. It doesn't have to run the show. It can be used as a tool. When there is a need for planning or for creative activity, that is when it is utilized. But when the mind tells me, like I love when Bob sometimes brings up his story about being an addict, alcohol addict or cigarette smoking addict, and the mind was telling him that he can't live without it. And then the mind was telling me bullshit. And whatever the mind says about the I or a me is bullshit, because there is no I or me. The mind can tell you that, it's functional if you slow down because there is a radar there and the police hanging out. That may be useful. But when the mind tells you that you are not good enough or you are superior, that is the you in a sentence. That is the I, the me. That's a bullshit. Whenever the self-referencing is happening, the mind is telling you bullshit. And that seems the most addictive pattern. But the addiction can be broken.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Kat. I work as a midwife, and so I get to be present for birth, and it really is amazing to witness the birth of the body, and it's so clear. It's so clear that there is no being that's born. The being is already present, like it's already there, and it's the body that gets born, and And, you know, and then you see this little newborn human, and it has no identity. Yeah. Like, it literally has no identity. It is just pure beingness. And, you know, if you, I'm sure many of you might even work as midwives or whatever, to really look in the eyes of that newborn form. And then you see like how the overlay starts to happen, you know, that form gets conditioned, it gets a name, it already has a story overlaid onto it. It doesn't relate to the story at all. It is not the story. But you get to witness the sense of separation as identity, as mother, father, story around how the birth unfolded, etc., 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 and how that becomes this kind of baseline foundation for the pseudo I, for the one that believes itself to be separate. And yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Here. That's just John David saying beautifully said cut. But regarding the overlay, what Lindsay was saying, I actually love when you highlight that there is a story already laid on a child. Oh, there is my child. The child is Australian, or the child is male or female. Yeah, exactly. And the child doesn't take it on board yet, because it can't even recognize, it can't even translate it and relate it to itself, because it doesn't have vocabulary. It hasn't been condemned to that deadly sin of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So it's a sinless. It will come later, or not.
Yeah, and I work with children slightly older, from about 3 to 6 year olds. So I see the very little ones. They teach me so much, because anything arises with them, but their self-centre hasn't been crystallised. So they'll laugh, they'll cry, they'll get angry, whatever. Not so much angry or upset, but they'll let it go almost instantly. And often I'll see young children that come in with a story. They arrive with a story that has probably been overlaid by parents or situations. And as soon as I say something else and distract them, it's gone, like that. And so they're a real, they can teach so much about just being in the moment and moving on without any residue being left. And it's only until later that we're taught, that we are a self-centre, etc., and things sort of get hung on to for much longer. But I've found that invaluable from very young children to see that operating.
Also, the life wants to live. There is a livingness. The child would cry when it's hungry or when it's tired. All children cry when they're hungry and tired. It's universal. Same with us adults. There is a life being expressed, or a living force, or a intelligence energy that wants to live. There's a life that wants. There is what do you say? Loving to be, a livingness that lives through livingness. What a joy! What a bloody joy! Not to be denied.
Dean, how about you?
What could I say? I don't know. It's like that newborn is like, there's like this luminous emptiness in it, like there's aliveness there, but it's empty. It's not. There's no. You can see it. You can feel it almost, like, because it's full of life. And I think like
there's been a lot of years of teaching Bob, and something that I've seen in Bob, and it's not really been a word, but it's the same luminous emptiness in Bob, like in his eyes, that I saw. Like he taught me stuff, he said stuff, and then they had these vibration, like sort of effects, but the emptiness itself was like seen directly, and still is, and there's no let's just leave it at that for now.
Many years ago when I was studying, I used to work in nursing homes, and I remember working with this young man who had massive epileptic fits from the time of birth. I mean, they were so severe, he was put in a nursing home. You know, he had to be in constant monitoring. So he would have like 20, 30, 40 fits a day. But when he wasn't fitting, the clarity in his eyes and the joy was just magnificent. You know, the body-mind, you know, the brain and the body is in a terrible state, but the life in the eyes is still there when he wasn't in a fit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had one comment. Did you want to say something before?
No, just hold on. Yes, you can. Do you want to make do you want to read that first?
Yeah. No, I can read it later.
So Elon Musk is a very intelligent business magnate, industrial personality in the world mentioned. I never thought that having love and a good heart in the work and in business has got influence, but now I can understand it really does. It does have influence. I'm working somewhere which is very toxic for someone like me. I'm a little bit sensitive, this understanding helped me to work through the business and life, which is not a business. I work as a staff in a company, and this clarity works it out as long as I bring it into sensory perception and not being arrogant about it in comparison to others. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point, Haim. I think feels like everything resolves so much easier, like from this space or as this space, like interactions, and because there's no pushback, there's no real, or it doesn't feel like it. Like it just absorbs what comes out and then responds accordingly, and it doesn't feel abrasive. But the other thing that occurred to me, that awareness isn't trying to come up with any answers, or it's not trying to work anything out. It's just immediate. I like when Bob sort of says awareness recognizing itself as itself, experiencing itself, but no split. Like it's just so energetically deep and prior and direct, but it's like it knows itself, and it just floats around, and there's a lot of love in it. There's a lot of love and lack of I think, I like what Gilbert said the other day about self-importance. It's just like there's no agenda, but there's a lot of love in it that wants to express in it when it interacts. Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah, I really don't have any more silly questions.
No silly questions.
No, I'm joking. Like, I think the reason I'm not asking questions maybe is that I don't have the clarity of you guys for sure, and
again you do.
not the depth of it, but finally I got a clue about, and I clarified that with Bob this morning before the meeting started, with what I need to, just kind of sit. I mean, not even in meditation, it could be just sitting in the balcony, and just where the source of attention is, because my attention's constantly with everything out there, and I just rest it back to where it's coming from, that kind of thing. I have a sense of it. I just need to sit with it for a while, and until maybe more question comes, or not any more questions. But something that I noticed in the last 2 Sundays is a lot of tears coming. I don't know why. I constantly come here, I totally feel heartbroken. I don't know what's going on, but there's been, since I'm coming here, lots of stuff been coming up that I have no explanations as this. So that's all I can share. Thank you so much.
I wonder if that will have anything to do with the fact that you believe that there is someone in the room, or more than one in the room, that is better or more clear than you, because that's not true. That's not true. There is nothing and no one who is even separate, less alone, better or clearer. You may be a better singer than some of them. Someone may be a better communicator than you are, but it's the same life that is beating your heart, and the same life looking out of your eyes, as everyone else, as Bob, as Buddha and Jesus. They're all dead, but as everyone in this room. And when you don't think that thought, they are having more clarity than I am. If you don't think that thought, what is wrong? What is wrong with right now? If that thought doesn't break your heart, because it is heartbreaking. Oh shit, everybody got it. I'm the last one. I'll never get it. What's wrong with me? Of course it's heartbreaking. I've been there.
Actually, I'm not sad, really. That heartbreaks is not about, I think it's something else, I mean, on Bob's birthday, I was really, that heartbreak was here as well, and very intensely, and I was really, kind of, I wish I was in the back rather than in front of the camera so I could just cry. The heartbreak comes, I don't know, I'm touched with you guys, like the truth that you're expressing, even though I don't fully understand it, and my mind is everywhere. Like I couldn't get a sentence of Bob without distraction today, of that beautiful spiel, or any of you guys. I couldn't even, my attention was so, I don't know, it's fear or whatever is going on, and I don't even care to understand it anymore. But it just, my attention is not even staying, since I got what Bob said, like this morning he confirmed that's what you should do, Since that, it's like, I don't know, it's coming from excitement or fear or whatever it's happening. I cannot hear a sentence without 10 times of distraction. Like this is where I was all day today, So, and heartbreak, I think I'm touched by something, but I don't get it, what it is. So, honestly, I don't have your clarity. I mean,
nobody has. The mind cannot be clear.
Yeah.
Mind can never be clear.
Mind
the
is
desire
there.
for clarity comes from the mind. The certainty of clarity is in the heart, always and forever.
Yeah.
But the desire, the mind that desires to be special, to be better, to be clearer, to be smarter, that mind is illusion. This is the phantom. Santa Claus is not real. The one who wants to have the clarity and who rejects this moment and wants a different moment in which I have clarity of Bob's, that one is just a story, it's just a thought. What actually resonates in your heart, mind will never get. Mind which, and I'm sorry, it is, I know what, like we've had 5 coffees and you're completely all over the top jumping and ADHD or whatever. It is uncomfortable for sure. But when you see the movement of attention, you see it already from that source of attention, from the stillness. So if you are witnessing how the mind is jumping from topic to topic and not ever getting what is being said, you are actually the one that is noticing it, that witnessing presence, noticing it, is free from it. And if another comment arises, yes, but I hate it, well, that's content of the mind, also noticed from that stillness. You're already reporting on your mind how crazy it is and how distracted it is. How do you know? Where are you looking from? You see your mind working, you note your mind. So the one that knows that the mind is unclear, the mind is jumpy, the mind desires, the mind is untrained, the mind is crazy, that one is beyond the mind. It sees the mind. And that you are. The mind wanting something else, the mind wanted to be enlightened and to have pleasure, that one is just a thought. If you don't believe it, or if that thought is not, if you push it aside, you're fine.
I totally believe you, I totally 100%, 150%. But I also know that believing you won't do anything for my liberation. So I have to really see it for myself. That's it. I have to see it for myself. Like I have to rest back into that. I give myself that, really time to rest back and just see what I need to see. Yeah. Because I guess But
you want to do it later, right? Not now.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I always think about that later thing. I know.
Now? You're already describing your mind right now. How about realizing that while describing your mind right now, you're free from it? Right now. You think there is any bigger or better freedom later when you do the job and when you strive to get into some state? No. The freedom is very, very basic and very simple, like a newborn baby, like a cat. They just present here, and they see what arises. Thoughts or noises outside the door, noises inside the head, noises from the room, they are just what arises. Right now, not later. You can play with whatever you want later or not.
Right.
It was just said in the spiel, and I think it's totally relevant here, where Bob said, just recognize you are already that, right? Even if you feel you haven't understood what's being said, or you do feel you have understood what's being said, recognize you're that, you're the absolute, that's all. Start with the fact. That's what he said.
Absolutely.
Just start with that, and then and if you need to, and that will, once that's embedded in your mind, it will never leave. It may feel that you're separate, but it will keep on coming up, and then the recognition, seemingly over time, will deepen and deepen and deepen. But just start with the fact. That's all. Don't worry about it else.
No attributes.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, Mitra. There's a conspiracy going on. And it starts when that beautiful little baby appears on the scene. It's not very long before we start to straighten it out and introduce a few concepts, and from there it only gets worse. The whole system is to keep us asleep. For instance, we see upside down, and the rays of light are inverted when they meet that screen, which is a mirror. And we see upside down, but the brain converts it. And the leaders in the field of physics and science recognise now there's no space or time. That's another part of this illusion that we live in. So the whole system is making it very difficult. When it's actually so simple.
Yeah.
To see the truth is very simple. Occasionally we get a glimpse of that. And then that sort of hangs around for a while, and then you notice what's going on. And as much as we get a little glimpse of the truth, our true nature, and then everything around is echoing back the opposite. So we're not one, we're two. We're in a relationship. It's duality. So we've got to keep going, stepping back to undo all the things that we believe in. Come back to that unity, which we are.
So one thing to finish with, if you don't mind. It's not what you say, Ross, it's who you are that really grabs me. I love you. I love you. Why do I love you? It's purely Ross, that's all. So it doesn't matter what concepts we throw up here, makes no difference at all. You know? None at all. Mitra, love you just simply because of your open expression, beautiful. Why not? And Heyman, when you stood up there, I didn't understand one word you said, but somehow there was some kind of knowledge that you're okay, and that's great. It's really moving ahead, isn't it? That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I know nothing.
There's an very ancient quote from one of the masters from time immemorial, and it goes like this: "Don't let anyone put their shit in your basket."
Beautiful.
The meeting this morning, today in this room, so amazing. It's like so many people have just put these precious jewels in, you know, and shared them. Amazing. And I feel really lucky and grateful and blessed to be here. You know, and just and Mitra, I'm with you. I'm the same as you. You know, I totally get you. And well, I don't know whether I do, but I, you know, no, and it's not. It's just, you know, you're very heart-centered, and whatever is happening with it, you know, I relate to that too. Of emotional sensitivity that you have, and what Dean shared just so simply today encapsulated what Bob said today and what has been said so much, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like coming from that emptiness, and just seeing from there, and it's not seeing anything, it's like coming from that emptiness and just seeing, full stop.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, Bob wanted to say something. You have the mic here.
Bob gets the last word, yeah.
I've been talking this stuff for over 40 years. If I knew I was breaking hearts, I'd have jumped off the cliff long ago.
If he knew he was breaking hearts, he would have jumped off the cliff.
You just break them open, my darling. You're the closed heart break open.
Never argue with an idiot.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.